What's up, everybody? This is Ghillie Sniper 300. Got a little bit of a different video for you today. I got to thinking about videos the other night, couldn't go to sleep, and this just popped into my head that it might be a neat little video to do. It is a little bit different, so just bear with me here. But what I'd like to talk about is basically firearm legacy, and that's just a concept that kind of popped into my head, like I said, and it's kind of a commonsensical thing. I think a lot of people practice it maybe without even knowing that they do practice it. I want to talk about what I just coined, I guess, a firearm legacy, or the firearm legacy, and it can mean a lot of different things. And my initial thought was that it's that it's something within a family. You know, my family doesn't have an extremely strong firearm legacy, but my family does have one. And I'm trying to start a pretty profound and deliberate firearm legacy within my immediate family. And it's something that I've never thought a lot about before, but it's something that I want to do, and I want to do it deliberately. I've been thinking a lot lately about how you have to be deliberate with your children and with your family, and very intentional with them in everything you do, and the way you train them, and the way you teach them, and the way you raise them, basically. And we need to be intentional with ourselves as well. So this is just one aspect of that deliberate nature and that intentional nature of raising children, but it also has a lot to do with our rights and our freedoms. And so I want to start with, and very briefly, our country has a very distinct firearm legacy. And I think that anyone watching this will probably know that and will probably be very familiar with that. Our country is founded on freedoms, obviously. And if you read in the Constitution, and I'm not going to get deeply into this, but we have the right to keep and bear arms. Part of that firearm legacy is defending it and protecting the right to keep and bear arms. And I'm not necessarily talking about voting or putting pressure on congressmen and women, or donating to certain groups or anything like that. Those things are important, but what I'm talking about is protecting it from within. Protecting that legacy by passing on our love for firearms, and more importantly, or possibly more importantly, the knowledge to wisely, responsibly, and effectively use those firearms for their intended purposes. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people forget, or they become very lax, or they don't take it deliberately enough. And I'm guilty of that at times as well. But that is possibly more important than the voting, because there's a certain image that is portrayed by the way we handle our firearms and what we do with our firearms, and the way we even speak about our firearms, and how they should be used and things like that. And some people don't really think about that. And if we don't pass that on, then there's really, we're basically undermining the entire legacy that America has with firearms, which is a very important one and a very unique legacy. So that's mainly what I wanted to talk about in those regards. Is just I know a lot of people, or I know of a lot of people who will buy a handgun, throw it in the dresser drawer, and forget it, and they call it home defense, and it's not. I find that, quite frankly, irresponsible. Now, it's your life to live, and it's your house to protect, so you can do it how you wish. And I'm not trying to pass judgment on anybody or call anybody names. That's just the way I see it. So I think to protect your home and protect your family, you owe it to them, not to yourself, but to them, to go out and at least practice with a firearm. I understand some people can't afford training. I myself have never paid for training with firearms. Now, I'm not the strongest shooter in the world, and that's apparent and obvious, but one way to improve is to go out with people who do know how to shoot firearms and shoot them. And if you can pick up tips from them, then fine. If they offer tips, take them gladly. Take them with grace and with acceptance, and pass that on when you get the chance. So that's all I'm talking about. Just go out and learn how to use those firearms, and then pass it on. And the key here, the key is to pass on the ability to effectively and responsibly use those firearms. Effectively meaning you can use it for its intended purpose, and you can use it at least to some degree of skill. Responsibly means basically safely and with care of the firearm and care of those around you and care of the image and all that kind of stuff in mind. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that I don't really care about my image. I'm talking about the image about, you know, regarding safely using firearms and making sure that you're not giving anyone too much reason to logically call for any kind of reform, or, you know, get rid of the guns or make them illegal or whatever. So anyway, that's all I want to talk about in that regard. That's a subject that really bears, it really needs 2 whole videos to talk about. As far as raising children with firearms, I would suggest and encourage anyone that happens to see this to go check out Nut & Fancy's videos, or you could just search Children of the Gun, and it will probably pop up. There's a part 1 and a part 2. Those are great, and they will empower you to do what you're supposed to do to reconcile having children in your home and firearms in your home. Society tells you that can't be reconciled, and it can. And those videos, Nut & Fancy does a really good job of empowering people and explaining how to do that properly. And then leaves you some room to make your own decisions, because after all, it's your household. You have to do it yourself. Nut & Fancy's not going to do it for you. I'm not going to do it for you. And you have to be the one, you will be the one who bears responsibility for what happens in your household as the leader of your household. So, and then the firearms in regard to society, that's a whole other subject that we could go on and on and on about. But in most cases, I would be preaching to the choir for people that are going to be watching this particular video, I'm sure. So I want to talk about legacy firearms now, and these are firearms that could be used. Every firearm's a legacy firearm to me. I don't buy guns to sell them. I've never sold a gun yet. I might someday, but I don't sell firearms. I buy them and I keep them. And my particular firearm legacy comes mostly from my grandfather on my mom's side. Now, I liked guns anyway from a very early age. And we didn't really have a lot of time as I was growing up to go shoot. We did a little bit, shotguns and 22s, and that's pretty much it. My father bird hunted, but not a lot once we became of age, because he was too busy and we were too busy. And so I hunted with my grandfather on my mother's side, and he hunted everything he could. Every season he trapped, he bow hunted, he had a crossbow, he had problems with his shoulders. And so he was, before they made it legal to use a crossbow in Oklahoma, he was using a crossbow because he was disabled, I guess you would call it. And so he is who I got most of that from, just through association. But it was destined to happen anyway. And then, you know, I remember him purchasing some Browning shotguns when I was about 13 or 14 and just telling me about it. I didn't see them, but he told me about it. And from that point on, I remember him repeatedly saying that whenever he dies, he wants his firearms to stay in the family, to be used, not put up on a shelf, not put in a display case, not hung up over the fireplace to collect dust. He wanted them used, but he wanted them taken care of. Used well and taken care of well. And that's the way I feel. And there's certain firearms that are just obviously those kind of guns that you want to pass on to your kids and that you want to be taken care of. And they're nice guns. They may have a history. They may have significant, they may have come from significant ancestry, or they may have been designed by a certain person, or you know, they may have a key piece in America's history or world history or whatever, or they may just be neat guns. You know, and I guess what I'm talking about here is I've got a cheap 22. It costs $100 and it doesn't cycle very well. It never will. That's not necessarily a legacy firearm, although I do look forward to passing that on. And someone can really, they can do whatever they want with that one. I don't care. It got me through college. So, but that's the difference between that gun and some of these guns that I'm going to show. So let's just run down through them. This is a Glenfield 30-30. This was my grandfather's on my father's side, and I don't know that he used it a lot. He didn't have a lot of guns. He was kind of like my dad. He was busy, and he was busy working and making everything work, you know. But he bought this. I'm sure he hunted with it a little bit, and this is it's from the Marlin Firearm Company, but it's a Glenfield. I guess it's kind of like a budget version or something like that. And really, 30-30s are great. These are great legacy guns because they can be used well, They're great for deer hunting. You can shoot coyotes with them if you want, if you get in close. They don't have the best trajectory in the world, but obviously they stem from the early Winchester lever action rifles, which in my opinion made America America. If you think about that, we were using a lot of lever action rifles in the late 1800s, and as far as I know, in Europe it was all bolt actions and things like that. The lever action made a quicker, maybe not as accurate, but a very quick, obviously shorter firearm for use in the West on horseback and things like that. And a lot of people hunted with these. They defended themselves with these and protected others with these. It's a lot like the single action Army revolver. You know, this and the single action Army revolver are key pieces in America's history. And of course, as any firearm, they were used for evil as well. Now this particular one, I don't get to use it much because there are some aluminum bars in here that connect the lever to the bolt that have started rubbing, and they get bound up. Aluminum doesn't really like that friction. And I took it apart and cleaned it once and put it back together, and now it was actually to a point where it was stuck halfway in between. It was stuck right there and you couldn't move it either way. So I took it apart and got it to where it actually functions again. It still binds up a little bit, and so I do not like using it. I don't want to tear it up or break it or anything like that. It is usable, and I hope to get it usable again sometime. But Glenfield 3030 from my dad's dad. This is a Browning Auto 5 20 gauge, which is a very slick shotgun. If I remember correctly, first semi-automatic shotgun ever put on the market, developed specifically by John Browning, who is a legend in the firearm industry. Also designed the Ma Deuce, the M2 machine gun, which is the longest serving firearm still in use by the US military. Maybe the longest serving weapon ever in the US military, I don't remember. But John Browning, if I remember what I read correctly, considered this his best design. My grandfather also had a Browning 12 gauge Auto 5 with a compensator on the end, and I really wanted that, but you know, it is still in the family and it's being taken care of. So that's the other one he bought at the same time as this one. But this is a really slick gun. It's got a lock back on your lap when it's empty. It locks back. It's got a little push button that will drop that. It's got, when it's like that, when it's locked back, you put a shell in, it's pretty scary because it automatically, bam, pops it up into the chamber. And it has a chamber shut off. So if you've got a loaded, or a magazine shut off, if you've got a magazine full of shells, you can flip that and pop this shell out and put another one directly in the chamber and close it. Your magazine won't feed, which has some uses, but I don't foresee ever really using it. It's got a dual friction ring system, so you can shoot magnum loads and it will absorb more recoil, or shoot lighter loads and it will actually cycle. And it has, this is the coolest thing in my opinion, it has a reciprocating barrel, which is just really slick. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it doesn't actually go back that far, but it's sort of like a delayed blowback system in a way. But this is a really cool gun. It's really, really classy, and he took really good care of it, and I plan on taking very, very good care of it. And it kicks a little harder than what I wished for a 20 gauge. So I don't know if we might slip something on the end of here for when Bullseye goes shooting shotguns for the first time. But that is the Browning Auto 5 20 gauge. And I'll show a close-up of some of this scroll work. It's got really, really slick scroll work up here on it. Now this firearm you guys have seen before. This is one I purchased specifically for Bullseye. It's probably a little bit too nice for a first gun, and it's definitely too nice for a little a kid's lever action to go running around in the woods with. But man, it's a silky smooth action, crisp trigger, really shiny and neat. That's the Henry Golden Boy 22 long rifle, obviously patterned somewhat after the, is it the 1873? I believe so, 1873 Yellow Boy rifle, which didn't have the fore end. That was a really slick looking rifle. Kind of a trapper's rifle or something like that. But again, another lever action. These are iconic in America. I mean, America was built on lever action firearms, I believe. and single action army revolvers in a way. Both of these are more American than Corvettes or Fords or baseball or anything like that, I think. That's my own personal opinion. So, not much to say about this that I haven't already said, but that is specifically for Bullseye, and he'll be passing that on to his kids. These other guns, they'll be definitely taken care of and used and passed on to my children. So, but again, the key is teach them how to use them safely, responsibly, and effectively. You want them out there shooting these guns well. You know, classy guns and guns that have been passed down. You don't want them being taken out there and shot like junk. You know, you want them to do what they were built to do, and you want them taken care of while they're doing it. And you definitely want them protected. So that's all I have to say about it. I can't think of anything else to say, and I hope I've done it justice, but that's just a concept that I kind of got to thinking about the other day. I've been spilling over it as I drive to work and back and go to sleep and all that kind of stuff. Finally got a chance to shoot it. I know the lighting is always bad on my videos. I was going to do it outside, but it's a little windy, so you wouldn't be able to hear me anyway. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and take care, be safe, you know, have fun, learn to use your guns very well and pass it on every chance you get. Spread the wealth, spread the love, and all that good stuff, and go shooting. So thanks.